Joy Drive.
Theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Wrong reviews it all on Joy Drive with Em and Warren.
Good afternoon, Suzy Wrong.
Good afternoon. I feel so guilty about buying an electric blanket, but it's so cold.
Oh, is it cold in Sydney too?
I feel like it's the coldest winter in a long time. Or maybe it's just me, I'm not sure.
It's very cold, isn't it? I was the same this morning. I went for a walk with Fuzzy, my dog, and we sort of went around the block, and he was racing to get back because he was so cold.
Have you ever owned an electric blanket?
I have owned one. I don't like using them. I'm always scared that I'll wake up, like a skeleton.
Isn't the idea that you turn it on and then when it warms up the bed, like aren't you meant to turn it off or no?
Well, I always turned it off beforehand, but can't you feel the wires? I could feel the wires when I was in bed. Like I just felt like it was uncomfortable. I just felt like I could feel the cables.
You're a bit of a princess and the pea, delicate lady.
We spoke about this earlier in the week, actually, or last week with Consumer Affairs Victoria, and Nicole from Consumer Affairs said the hot water bottle is the best way to do it.
I did buy one.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't burst, Suzy.
Okay.
That's the main thing. But today we are talking about a movie that's called Spoiler Alert.
The first frames of the movie Spoiler Alert shows the tragic scene of a man dying in a hospital bed with his partner lying next to him. We know from the very outset that it's not going to be the perfect love story. Spoiler Alert, now available to rent or buy on your favorite platforms, is based on the true story of journalist and writer Michael Oziello, who meets Kit Cohen, a handsome photographer, and then proceeds to fall in love hard and fast. The film sometimes feels like a romantic comedy, but it is probably best described as a classic drama. As we proceed on this preordained narrative of a love story ending in a death, we explore issues about coming out, about body confidence and childhood trauma, etc., all the usual stuff. I would say the ultimate point of the story, though, is to witness Michael's growing self-esteem. He begins almost feeling unworthy of being loved, and over the 13 years with Kit, learns the value of life and what it means to have a sense of self-worth. Kit's illness plays a big part in the plot, and although handled delicately, I still found the whole cancer ordeal incredibly difficult to watch. Maybe memories of my own mother dying from cancer makes all my emotions fire up, and I found myself unable to let down my guard and subsequently unable to engage with the sentimental aspects of Spoiler Alert. I am grateful, though, that the filmmakers haven't made the trauma too intense so that I could get to the end without completely falling to pieces. The performances are great. Jim Parsons is fantastic as usual, really admirable for his restraint as Michael, confident in his depictions, never being too on the nose, trying to compete against a scene partner who has to portray increasingly terrifying states of illness. Ben Aldridge is equally impressive as Kit, dramatic but never overwrought, and so convincing as a young man in the face of certain demise. Overall, I think Spoiler Alert is elegantly made, maybe a little too simple in style, but a valuable addition to the modern queer film canon in our post-AIDS and post-marriage equality era. Warren, I'm actually surprised I shed no tears, but did it make you cry?
You know what, Suzy, I've got an award for you. We don't often give out awards here on Joy Drive, but I've got an award for you because it's the first time someone has got me to eat a whole packet of chips by myself and a box of ice creams watching a movie. So I just want to say congratulations, Suzy, because that's what I did last night.
You ate the entire packet of chips and the box of, 3 popsicles.
Lot.
Did you feel like you were eating your feelings?
I think I was. I really enjoyed Spoiler Alert. I really loved it. I thought, first of all, I just want to say one thing is, we've had a lot of, I suppose, what would we call the last couple of things that we've reviewed on here? I mean, they've been quite superficial, haven't they? Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed a bit of depth to it, and I think I liked seeing us portrayed how we should be portrayed and real relationships. And I thought it was good to see a gay relationship on TV where the performances for me felt really real, and it was good. It was nice. It was like I could see myself being reflected there, and I thought, great, really, really good to see. I found myself giggling at times. There were so many times where it was quite funny, and then bawling my eyes out at other times, like really, really sobbing and being so sad and so immersed in it. I think the funny parts for me, like, just the sex scene, like not being able to take your pants off. I mean, that's me. So clumsy. It all goes wrong. It was done, but it was done so realistically. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I think we're not just about sex, glitter and drag queens. There's some realism to us as well. It was good to see on the screen.
Well, there's a lot of RuPaul Drag Race in the story, which was interesting.
That's right. But it is immersed in there, but it's immersed with reality as well.
Yeah, it's done in a very realistic way, and I certainly felt like I believed everything that I was watching. Maybe I felt that it could have been a little bit more creatively done. You know how at the end there's a weird sequence.
Yeah,
we won't spoil it too much, but I felt like I wanted a bit more kind of weirdness to it. Otherwise, it just felt like a really straightforward thing. Like I said in my introduction, sometimes some stories are too hard in a personal way, and I just felt like I didn't want to open up my emotions to the story, like the cancer stuff, because it affected me so much as a young person. I knew that if I allowed myself to feel what the characters are going through, that it's going to be too hard for me to deal with, because the film is going to end and then you're going to be left to deal with the feelings on your own. So I know that I wasn't able to invest into the film in a way that I normally would. I could feel my emotions kind of blocked up a little bit, but I could see objectively that they took a lot of care with it. I like the sensitivity of it, and I like that it wasn't exploitative. It wasn't like out there to make you cry and make you feel like, this is a classic tragedy sort of form. It was just more about showing what love can do for people. It showed you what growth is like, maybe, and also what a healthy same-sex marriage, same-sex relationship could look like.
We're talking about Spoiler Alert with Suzy Wrong. And I think the other thing, Suzy, that I liked about it is that, we are capable of having long-term relationships, and it's not necessarily always portrayed or celebrated. And in those relationships, we're capable of facing the challenges that all relationships face. I mean, they're never perfect. They're never picture book relationships, are they? And they get hit left, right and centre by all these challenges. And it was good to see, there's a gay couple on screen that are handling them and working through them. And I found that really refreshing. Yeah.
And there was a really interesting moment where you found out that they actually took a break in their relationship.
Yeah,
which was good, which very realistic, which does happen, and which is a healthy way of navigating a relationship. You can't expect a smooth, even flow all through your lives together. There's going to be difficult moments, and if you're mature enough, you go seek help, which they do. They see a therapist, and then the therapist kind of says, maybe take a break, and I guess that's valuable information, and it kind of makes us feel like, maybe we need to kind of have a break from classic romantic ideals and just kind of do things in a slightly different way.
Some realism, particularly in a world where there's not a lot of gay role models out there. So the other thing is, and I suppose, for our generation, Suzy, is, we've gone through the whole HIV/AIDS trauma of seeing friends and family, leave us because of HIV and have their family disown them and not be there during their last moments on Earth. And it's kind of nice to see, okay, we've got a movie that's actually got a supportive family that's surrounding, the person who's dying. And I thought that was good, because for most of us, including myself, I mean, we've been traumatised by having friends whose family have disowned them. And that for us is still, in the forefront of our minds of this is what it's like to be a gay man when you die. And it was good to see that, no, it's not always like that. Sometimes there are some really supportive, good families out there.
I really appreciate the performance of the actor Ben Aldridge who plays Kit, who is the man with cancer, and how the performance of showing how he's come to terms with it when he knew that, oh, this is not going to get any better. And you were kind of just waiting with the family for the final days. And the performance showed a surrender, resignation. And then also, I don't know if I'm overly interpreting it, but it feels like he was like satisfied with a really lovely life, and he's fallen in love in a really beautiful way. He's got all his loved ones surrounding him, which is the way anybody should hope to die.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think you're right. I think the movie could have been, like, it's predictable. You know what's going to happen when you watch it. So it's quite linear in its progression, isn't it? But I think the authenticity of it and that added the twists for me. The things that happened to their relationship. That's what kept me interested in it. And I don't know, look, it wasn't, I agree with you, like, quite simplistic, but it had me, I was in tears. I had a good chunk of the movie, Suzy, I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You finished your ice cream.
I finished my ice cream, ate my chips, and then I went to the gym today to get rid of it.
I was going to say the film must have made you work out really hard today.
It did, definitely. But so we're talking about Spoiler Alert, which is currently streaming. You can catch it. Suzy, I'm interested. So you completely blocked your emotions.
Yeah. I could feel like, for me to meaningfully engage with the film, I probably need to really have those feelings out. But I could feel myself blocking them. I think that's one of the things that I've grown very good at. I don't know if good is the right word, but sort of my mother's death, like, I've come to terms with it. It's been 20-something years. Like, I don't miss her the way that I used to. But I think the traumatic experience of living with a person back in the day where pain, what do they call it? The way they treat pain wasn't quite as sophisticated. So she didn't have all the medication that I think is available now. So she was in pain for a long time, like months. Like, and to have your mother screaming in her bed at home is really tough, you know? And she didn't have the kind of sweet death you see in film where they kind of close their eyes and fade away. She was like back and forth and like really angry and screaming and saying that I need to die now, I need to die now. That, yeah, it was really tough. So for me to face those emotions that I associate with cancer was just not something I could do, I don't think.
Not ready to do.
No, just too hard, yeah.
Suzy, we did get something from the film that I thought was good. You know, and that is FFK. Did you pick that
I
up?
love that.
Oh,
I love that.
I am a former FFK. And do we spoil what it means?
Yeah, because this chat would mean nothing.
Okay, all right. FFK, and it was part of the whole movie, is former fat kid. And I just loved it. I loved the way that kept going back to him as a kid and being a fat kid and what it meant.
And he looked completely different.
Completely different. And how it impacted the relationship later on in terms of what he thought about his body and, you know, just those, when sex was being initiated, the impact that it has. And we forget that when you have grown up.
It was very severe, wasn't it? Did he say that he showers with a shirt on?
With a shirt on. I mean, sad. And we forget that's what happens when you're a kid and you're bullied because of how you look. It has long-lasting repercussions into adult life.
Yeah.
Did you find, Suzy, before I let you go, did you find the flashbacks to with the mother, was that triggering for you?
I don't think it was. I think a lot of the film was dealt with illness and cancer in a very sensitive, caring way. I think they were careful not to be exploitative. So I felt like, I could get to the end of the film, but it was because of my personal choice to not be too emotional about it. Because I think even with this chat today, I knew coming in that we have to be careful because there are people listening who are very well dealing with a lot of health things.
Exactly.
And we have to be very sensitive and careful in dealing with these things because sometimes people, you can't insist that people make themselves emotionally available just because you feel like you want to talk about it. And I think the film is quite careful with that in that way.
Definitely. And of course, if any of this conversation has raised any issues, head to joy.org.au/support for a list of really good support services. Suzy, before you tell us what our homework is for next week, we've got this message that's come in and it says about a spoiler alert. This is from David in Fitzroy. He called it spoiler inert. There you go. So not everyone liked it. This one here as well. Would love you to review Couples Therapy. It's brilliant. Season 3 dropped recently, and each season there are 2 queer couples included. Fascinating to have access to a top-shelf New York City therapist's insight. So there's a suggestion for you as well, Suzy.
Yeah, that's good. I love having suggestions from our listeners. I'll check that out. Couples Therapy, is it?
Couples Therapy, yes.
Okay, I'll check that out. But for next week...
Yes.
We are looking at Deadlock. It is a new Australian series on Amazon Prime Video in which 2 vastly different women detectives are thrown together to solve the murder of a local man in the sleepy seaside hamlet of Deadlock. And I'll see you next Tuesday.